Greenwitch by Susan Cooper, Chapter 5. Simon burrowed deeper into the small, cozy cave between pillow and bedclothes. Yeah, go away.
Oh, come on, Simon!
Barney tugged persistently at the sheet.
Get up! It's a super morning. Come and see. Everything's all shiny from the rain last night. We could go down to the harbour before breakfast, just for a walk. No one else is awake. Come on!
Growling, Simon opened one eye and blinked at the window. In the clear blue sky, a seagull turned and lazily drifted, arching down on unmoving wings. Oh, well, he said, all right. In the harbor, nothing moved. Boats hung motionless at their moorings, their mast images unrippled. In the still water, there was a sea smell of creosote from nets draped for mending over the harbor wall. Nothing broke the silence but the clatter of a distant milk van somewhere high up in the village. The boys pattered down rain-patched steps and through narrow alleys down to the sea. The sunshine on their faces was already warm. As they stood looking down at the nearest boats, a village mongrel trotted up, sniffed amiably at their heels, and went on his way.
Rufus must be out too, said Barney. Let's go and see.
All right. Simon ambled after him, content, relaxed in the stillness and the sunshine and the gentle swish of the sea.
There he is!
The rangy red dog came bounding toward them across the quayside. Excuse me. He pranced about them, tail waving, white teeth grinning, as the long pink tongue lolled out. Idiot dog, said Simon affectionately, as the tongue curled wetly round his hand. Barney squatted down and gazed solemnly into Rufus's brown eyes. I do wish he could talk. What would you tell us, boy, eh? About the painter from the dock and where he took you. Where was it, Rufus? Where did he hide you, eh? The setter stood still for a moment, looking at Barney. Then he cocked his narrow head on one side and gave a curious noise that was half bark, half whined, like a kind of question. He swung round, lolloped a few paces along the quay, then stopped and looked back at them. Barney stood up slowly. Rufus trotted away a few more steps, then again turned and looked back, waiting for them.
What on earth? Said Simon, watching. He wants to show us. Barney hopped nervously up and down. Come on, Simon, quick, he'll show us where the painter hides, I bet you, and we shall be able to tell Gummery.
Rufus whined, questioning. I don't know, Simon said. We ought to get home. Nobody knows where we are.
Oh, come on, before he changes his mind.
Barney grabbed his arm and tugged him after the lean red dog, already trotting away now confidently across the quay. Rufus led them straight across the harbor and round into the road that ran inland from the grey house and the sea. The road was familiar at first, leading back through the narrowest part of the village, past quiet cottages, sleeping behind lace-curtained windows, and once or twice a modest house grandly labeled Private Hotel. Then they were behind Trewisick, in the hedge-rimmed farmland that curved around the white cones and green ponds of Clayborough country, until far inland it met the moors. Simon said, We can't go much farther, Barney. We shall have to turn back. Just a little bit more. On they went, along silent roads bright with the springtime green of newly full trees. Simon looked around him with the flickerings of unease in his mind. Nothing was wrong. The sun warmed them. Dandelions brightly starred the grass. What could be wrong? Suddenly, Rufus turned off the road into a narrow, leafy lane. A signpost at the corner read, Pentreath Farm. On either side, the trees reached their branches up and over to arch in a leafy roof. Even in full daylight, the lane was shadowed, cool, with only a faint dappling of sunshine filtering through the leaves. All at once, Simon was filled with an immense foreboding. He stood stone still. Excuse me again. Barney looked over his shoulder. What's wrong? I don't know exactly. Did you hear something? No, It's as if I've been here before, Simon shivered. It's the funniest feeling, he said. Barney looked at him nervously. Perhaps we really should go back. Simon did not answer. He was staring ahead, frowning. Rufus, who had disappeared around a corner of the lane for a moment, was bounding back again in a great, unexplained hurry. Into the trees! Quick! Simon grabbed Barney's arm, and with the dog close behind them, they slipped into the thicket of trees and brush that edged each side of the road. In there, picking their way carefully from tree to tree to avoid rustling footfalls, they inched forward until they could see the part of the lane that lay ahead round the corner. They did not speak or whisper. They scarcely breathed, and at their feet Rufus crouched still as a dead dog. There ahead, the trees were no longer thick, the land no longer a leafy tunnel. Instead, they saw wide fields scattered with large single trees and clumps of scrub. Across it, the lane was no more than a grassy track, two wheel-worn ruts winding away to where the trees grew thick again. It did not look as though many people used the path to Pentreath Farm, and there was no sign of any farmhouse. Instead, clear ahead of them, in the sunlit field, they saw a caravan. It stood tall and glittering and handsome, a real old-fashioned gypsy caravan, of a kind they had never seen before except in pictures. Above the high wood-spoked wheels rose white wooden sides, sloping gently outwards up to the carved wooden roof, with its cone-hatted chimney. In each corner between roof and wall, at each corner between roof and walls, brightly painted scrollwork filled the eaves. In the side walls, square windows were set, neatly curtained. Leaning down from the front of the van were shafts for the horse that stood grazing quietly nearby. At the rear, a sturdy six-rung ladder led up to a door painted with ornate decorations to match the scrollwork, a split door of the kind used in stables, with the top half hanging open and the lower half latched shut. As they crouched behind the trees, breathlessly staring, a figure appeared in the doorway, opened the lower door, and began descending the steps of the caravan. Barney tightened his grip on Simon's arm. There was no mistaking the long, wild, dark hair, the snarling brow. The painter was even dressed exactly as he had been both times before, like a fisherman in navy blue jersey and trousers. He swallowed nervously at the impact of the man's nearness. It was as if there were a cloud of malevolence all around him. Barney was suddenly very glad that they were deep in the trees, out of all possible sight. He stood very still indeed, praying that Rufus would not make a sound. But although, indeed, there was no sound anywhere in the clearing except the clear morning song of birds, I lost my spot. But although there was indeed no sound anywhere in the clearing except the clear morning song of birds in the trees, the dark man paused suddenly at the bottom of the caravan steps. He lifted his head and turned it all around like a deer questing. Barney saw that his eyes were shut. Then the man turned full in their direction, his cold eyes opened beneath the lowering brows. He said clearly, "Barnabas Drew, Simon Drew, come out." No thought of running away came into their minds, or anything but unquestioning obedience. Barney walked automatically forward out of the trees and felt Simon moving with him in the same unhesitating way. Even Rufus trotted docile at their side. They stood together in the sunlit field beside the caravan, facing the dark man in his dark clothes, and although the sun was warm on their skin, it seemed to them that the day had become chill. The man looked at them unsmiling, expressionless. "What do you want?" he said. Somewhere in Barney's mind, as a spark flickers and finds tinder and blazes up into a flame, a small light of resentment flared suddenly into a crossness that burned away fear. He said boldly, "Well, for one thing, I'd like my drawing back." Beside him, he half saw Simon shake his head a little, like one pushing away sleep, and knew that he too was clear of the spell. He said more loudly, "You stole my drawing down in the harbour, goodness knows why, and I liked it. I want it back." The dark eyes contemplated him coolly. It was impossible to read any emotion behind them. "Quite a promising little scribble for your age." "Well, you certainly don't need it," Barney said. For a moment he spoke with admiration, thinking of the real power in the man's painting. "No," said the man with an odd, grim half-smile. "Not now." He moved back up the steps, through the double door. Over his shoulder he said, "Very well, then, come on." Rufus, who had stood stock-still from the beginning, began a low, rumbling growl deep in his throat. Simon put a hand down to quiet him and said, "That wouldn't be very sensible, Barney." But Barney said lightly, "Oh, no, I think it would be all right. and he moved toward the caravan steps. Simon had no choice but to follow him. "Stay, Rufus," he said. The setter folded his long legs and lay down at the foot of the steps, but still the long, low growl went on, eerie and unbroken. They could hear it soft in the background, like a reminder of warning. The dark man had his back to them. "Look well at the Romnivado," he said without turning. "There are fewer of them to be seen any more." "Romney," said Simon, "are you a gypsy?" "Half Romney Chow," the man said, "and half Goguryeo." He turned and stood, with arms folded, surveying them. "I am part gypsy, yes,